stepping into a space that's transforming how decisions are made, how businesses operate, and how leaders think about the future. Artificial intelligence. As AI continues to evolve at an unprecedented pace, it's opening a door to incredible opportunities, while also introducing new challenges that leaders must navigate. The AI Leviathan. Young Pham, CEO and co-founder of Finite Business Solutions, LLC, will share how AI is influencing business strategy, operations, and leadership, and what it takes to harness its potential while navigating risks, ethical considerations, and disruption. He will also offer practical insights on how organizations can stay ahead in an increasingly intelligent and fast-moving landscape. Please join me in welcoming young Pham onto the stage.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everybody had a great lunch. I am excited to be here. I'm excited to be in Las Vegas. I'm excited to participate in our 6th year in the 2.0 conferences. Hopefully you guys are getting just as much value out of this as I've always had and our organization's always had. But more importantly, I'm very excited to talk about what we're talking about today. And the topic is named the AI Leviathan, right? So if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Young Pham. I am CEO of Finite Business Solutions and Archer Now LLC. Let me make sure I can use this correctly. There we go. So a little bit about us. We are a family of brands that customize and is completely tailored towards the homeowners association market, right? So from Finite Business Solutions to Finite Files to Archer Now LLC, if we're talking about data aggregation, outsourced accounting, finance, taxation, legal statutes, that's kind of our wheelhouse. So that's what we do. If this is your first time in my series of talks over the years, a little bit about me is I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. I came over here to the United States at the age of 2 as a political refugee with my mother and my aunt. This will now be my 27th year in accounting and finance. In my former life in corporate America, they used to send me around as a regional person where I would go into various branches and look at revenue leakage, workflow optimization, efficiencies, and things like that. So I was kind of that guy for the longest time, so most people really didn't like seeing me when they came into the office, right? And I have a very eclectic background, which kind of precedes kind of the list of talks that we've had over the years, right? So obviously I have a background in accounting, business, and finance, but I think what's kind of unique and sometimes doesn't really fit a normal puzzle is I also have a background in psychology. And when we talk about AI today, that's kind of the spin I want to take on this, right? So one of the first things I want to do is frame our conversation, frame the context of what we're really talking about. So the Leviathan. Some of you may have heard about it. You've probably heard that term. It's theological, right? There's some mythology behind it. In the Bible, it's considered a metaphor for like a powerful enemy, right? What we're talking about today is the concept of like this sea serpent that's chaotic and it's destructive, right? But more specifically, we're talking about a book that was written in 1651 by Thomas Hobbes called The Leviathan. I don't know how many of you guys here are philosophy buffs, but this book, when I read, I believe I was like in 14 or 15 years old, completely changed my perspective on humanity, right? Of course, every kid thinks that no matter what book they read at that time. But Thomas Hobbes, 17th century philosopher, postulates in The Leviathan, right, that in order for us to prevent human beings from descending in what they call our natural state, which is a terrible, awful state of self-interest, fear of death, desire of power, is we had to resurrect a social contract whereby we delineate some of our obligations and some of our power in response for people protecting us, right? A social contract. Henceforth, government in today's world. So that's a Leviathan that I want to actually juxtapose. And where does that really start with our conversation today? Well, I am theorizing today that we now exist in the modern day Leviathan known as artificial intelligence, right? We in the past have thought of automation, especially for many folks in this room. We know a world before internet. We know a world before computers. We know a world before these levels of advancements in technology and automation. If we had to, we could do math shorthand, right? We now no longer live in that world, right? AI is no longer just simply a tool. It's an autonomous decision-shaping system. And unfortunately, unlike governments, business structures, business models, KPIs, AI scales way faster than any of us can even comprehend. We are still in the infancy of the AI movement, and yet there's probably about 90% of the things that are being AI generated that we can no longer validate as correct or as original. Our controls, as they increasingly shift from people to systems, it becomes something we no longer comprehend and fully comprehend. And I think psychologically, there's going to be huge generational ramifications for things like that. Some quick information behind this. Over the next 3 days at these conferences, there are dozens of AI authority figures that can tell you how to leverage AI, how to build AI, right? So what I want to do is frame why this conversation is so pertinent, why it's important for us to take just a few minutes out of our day-to-day and really understand the social and economic implications of this AI movement so that we can take that back to our thought leaders in our organizations and really have these discussions, right? So I'm going to bring up some boring data, but we're going to move through these slides fairly quickly, right? So one of the things that's kind of alarming is literally in over the last 6 years, from 2015 to 2021, we've noticed a tenfold increase in AI usage as it pertains to new AI patents applications. One of the things I want you to look at on this next chart is the density map in regards to the bluer it is, the more usage that country is doing AI today, right? Really keep an eye out on the fact that there's two major blue players here, the United States and China. We're going to revisit that conversation in a few slides later. So let's kind of keep that in mind. And then let's also divulge the fact that the World Data Organization today tells us that in the United States alone, over 80% of businesses claim they use an AI tool of some sort to facilitate their services and support. We're talking about things like machine learning, natural language progression, things of that nature, right? So on some basic level, if you're not doing it today, you're already behind the game, right? And that's what everyone else in this conference is going to tell you, why you need to continue to leverage it faster, stronger, quicker. I'm asking you today is to take a few minutes and take a pause on this movement and really understand the implications of what we're doing. So, what I like to theme the illusion of control, right? If you look throughout humanity and all of our failings, it's not, our hostility is not built off of our violence, it's built off of our ignorance, right? Our xenophobia, our fear of understanding, our lack of understanding, eventually leads us to hatred, leads us to violence, right? Instead of trying to understand each other, we fear each other. And then we're misaligned. And the theme of misalignment is at the core of what artificial intelligence actually is. And the reason behind that is AI is built for objective functions. It's not built for human values, right? You don't go and ask AI, you don't ask Claude, you don't ask ChatGPT, tell me what's right in the world and what's wrong in the world. You tell it, how do I streamline optimization so I can cut 3 headcount tomorrow? Think about that for a second, right? So, now we have misalignment. What happens when we have misalignment and we have violence and we have unguided principles? There's a loss of human agency involved with this, right? And it's basically a fancy way of saying that in today's reality, in the infancy of the AI movement, artificial intelligence is already influencing hiring practices, our credit scores, how we sentence criminals, healthcare, and even how we police ourselves and our own companies. That's horrifying to think about. Human judgment is very quickly being replaced by machine judgment. And this sounds a little morose, but if we continue along this path with unfettered checks on the movement that we're talking about, there are indicators that can lead to economic collapse in certain areas, right? I think for a lot of us laymen, including myself, our initial fear is, well, it's going to eliminate the job that I have. It's going to eliminate jobs. Folks, we're well past that. What AI serves to ultimately eliminate is career pathing, career ladders. And I'm not saying that we all grew up wanting to enter data entry and pay bills and move a rock from here to here, right? But fundamentally, we don't understand how things work. How can we check the work that someone else is now doing for us, that is now delegated for us. On top of that, over the last few decades, one of the largest discrepancies we have between the upper and lower class is a massive chasm that is only going to continue to increase. Everyone in these conferences these days, right, we have these wonderful conversations with our colleagues, but there's also private equity money that's floating around and trying to consolidate these companies together, right? And so when they do that, only the haves and have-nots can leverage cutting-edge AI tools that the rest of us are just trying to keep up with. So in our gumption to keep up with those things, right, we lose sight of the core of what we're supposed to be doing. Our past automation, which is very different from artificial intelligence, replaced manual labor. But at every technological advancement, whether it was the wheel, fire, electricity, internet, it always brought about new opportunities for human nature. This is completely different. This is an unforeseen reality because now we are officially replacing human cognition, our ability to critically think. So, remember what I told you about China and the United States, the two leaders right now at the forefront of the AI movement. At the same time, both of these countries were sampled, their citizens, their constituents, they have two vastly different opinions on the AI movement, right? There was a study that was done in 2021, and it asked citizens of all these countries, specifically China and the United States, how they felt about AI and how it would impact us in the next 20 years. Over 2/3 of Chinese people believe that AI is a good thing, probably because they also want to continue to keep up with the other world powers. Versus in the United States, only 1/3 of us think in the next 20 years we'll be better off with AI. The same amount of people, 1/3 of us, believe that it will be more detrimental to us 20 years from now. So now you have two large powers competing and moving in the same direction with vastly different philosophies on how to approach this. One is out of fear and security. The other one is out of rapid growth to outpace everybody. And that in and of itself leads to the next phase of this, which is what I like to call the misinformation Leviathan, right? The misinformation Leviathan, we now, in the very near future, a very significant potential risk for us is that we can be over-inundated with AI-generated content, not that we aren't today, right? And it's to the point now where our human capacity to be able to validate what's right, what's wrong, what's real, is almost nearly impossible. That disinformation, as our companies compete with each other with all these AI tools, is only going to make this information, these tools, cheaper, faster, and more convincing for all of us, right? And at the point that we do that, our trust in media, science, our normal institutions, our formal institutions, are completely eroded. The way we interact with our P&Ls, how do we even know we can trust the analysis that we're getting that's automated for us, right? How do we know what companies we should be investing in stock, and how do we know it's not just manipulation based off of a separate algorithm to then enhance another set of people's interests? So, and last but not least, as fun as this conversation has been already, I also want to talk about the social and psychological degradation that the potential of the AI movement could have. There are three main factors of this. The first is the cognitive offloading, right? The offloading of critical thinking, weakening human thinking, human reasoning. Here's an example, and this was a very recent one. A few months ago, I was walking the floor. We had just hired an entry-level individual that we were very excited about, had a bachelor's in accounting, and he had to solve, for whatever reason in his problem set, something about 17 times 141, something like that. I don't remember. We'll just say that's the example. Well, what did most of us do? Some of us, maybe the geniuses in the room, could probably do that in your head. A few of us probably just grab the local calculator. Some of us grab our iPhone, maybe enter that in the calculator app equation, right? You know what he did? He Googled 17 times 141. And that horrified me, right? He didn't use Excel, he didn't use a calculator, he asked somebody else. That's like when I'm in the kitchen, I'm asking, Alexa, hey, is that right? Whatever stupid story I just read on Facebook is the exact same thing. So think about that fundamentally. Second thing is social isolation. All these AI companionship apps right? The more we talk to it, in the past there were these prompts that we had to go through on our cars. We hated it, it was frustrating, we didn't say it right, we didn't prompt at the right time, we didn't hit the button the right way. Now if you notice in most of your cars, you can almost speak to it like another person. But when we do that, we fundamentally alter the way we communicate with each other. Because AI doesn't care about our tone, right? It doesn't care if we're rude or not, it just wants to answer your question for you. I don't know if you guys know this, but about 18 months ago, they released the latest test scores regarding reading comprehension in the United States, which evaluates 4th, 8th, and 12th graders. For the first time ever, our reading comprehension is as bad as it was 2 decades ago. On top of that, they're now stipulating that 1 out of 5 adults are functionally illiterate. And in order to be illiterate, you have to be able to read at a 5th grade level. Do you think the AI movement's going to help with that? Lastly, human identity, business identity, right? It becomes diluted. We no longer have, as these companies, as we build these companies, we lead these companies, some kind of ethos, some kind of purpose behind what we do every day. Now it's just an algorithm feedback, right? Well, we need this niche, so this is the space we need to be in it. So now we're going to be in the same line with the 12 or 13 other players in the same space, trying to solve the same thing that our math and our formulas tell us that we need to. The lack of identity is going to be a huge part of this. So take it all back as we kind of wind down this conversation before we show a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Let's go back to the Hobbes analogy real quick, right? So Hobbes in the Leviathan, and I assure you guys, he had a problem with spelling, but it's a wonderful book if you guys can ever get through it, right? He talked about how in order for us to crush the chaos within humanity, that was the only way we were to preserve humanity. So we had to save ourselves from each other. What we're at today, in our reality, AI crushes humanity because all it cares about is optimization, right? Hobbes feared life without authority because authority on some level protected us if we were weaker, if we were poorer. AI is something we should fear because it's authority without human life. So depressing, so morose. Why is this guy up here talking about this? What the heck's the point, right? It's too late. So what do we do now? Well, there's actually a couple of things we just need to keep in mind. Remember, we're still at the infancy of this, right? I can say today, no matter how many geniuses are out in this conference room, they're still not as smart as we are yet. They may do things faster than us, but it doesn't necessarily mean they've fully comprehended the human movement. And because of that, we must remain AI as a tool, right? Not an authority figure. Every time in our organizations and our businesses, we go AI advises, but humans must continue to decide. AI accelerates our growth, accelerates our information and our analysis, but we must continue to be the conduit that makes final judgment on things. As AI operates our businesses, 60, 80%, 100% of our businesses, we must still remain accountable for their actions. That's the only way we can continue to use AI as a tool. What is AI never supposed to control? Well, I think there's 5 things. 1, AI should never have the use of lethal force. AI should never be part of legal sentencing authority. AI should never have core rights determinations. AI should never be the final decider in medical decisions. But most importantly, AI should never value set our moral judgments. And I know for thousands of years we've had such a hard time defining morality because it's ambiguous. We fight and kill each other over it. But let that still be the final remaining critical piece of humanity that we have to figure out on our own. So, all you smart people in this room, there's a price of intellectual power, and it's something that we cannot take lightly. AI safety is always going to fail when all of us leaders in this room take profitability over prudence. We're always thinking about a scalability without scrutinizing that scalability. Where we talk about the speed of how we do things instead of the ethics behind what we're doing it for. I would say there are certain fundamental human skills that we must preserve at all costs, regardless of how annoying or inefficient it is. We must continue in our workplace, never forget how to navigate, how to write and read, our judgment and our decision making, how we diagnose and break down problems, and how we critically reason. It's fundamentally the core of what we are as human beings. And lastly, I would say culture matters the most, more than ever now in a workplace. And when I mean culturally, I mean how we treat our technological values, right? Because there's not a company here that doesn't operate off of heavy, heavy technological influence. But we must remember with our teams and the next generation of folks in our organization and in the world that we must continue to teach skepticism and to scrutinize data and teachings that they're given rather than just have blind dependency on it, right? We must train ourselves to continue to judge processes and procedures rather than just be blindly obedient to it. We must reward our team members that have wisdom, that have knowledge, not just the person that can do things the fastest and the most efficiently and at the cheapest rate. And only then will we choose our future and not let AI choose our future for us. The reason I brought this question up at the very beginning of this, why are we talking about this? Why are we taking 30 minutes out of our day to talk about this? And hopefully you guys go back and talk to your colleagues, to your teams, to your departments about this. Because I firmly believe that the beauty of human nature, of humanity, is in the things we can't explain, is in the illogical, it's in the anomalies, right? There's a reason that we romanticize the idea of the weak beating the strong. There's a reason why we romanticize certain human beings that are born at a disadvantage that rise up and make a profound impact on the world. Can we teach AI to understand that a single mother of three taking night classes at an online university can actually outperform an Ivy League graduate in the workplace? Can we actually program AI to reprogram the soul of humanity, to understand that all lives matter, not just doing what's best for the vast majority of people if it benefits us? It's hard. But I would say at some point, we must continue to balance this insatiable need for profit and efficiency and bypass our complacency to really see what kind of world we're leaving for this next generation of entrepreneurs, workforce, and even our children. I came across a quote I want to leave you guys with very, very, very recently. And it came something to the effect of, the danger of AI is not rebellion. The danger of AI is obedience without understanding. You know who said that? ChatGPT. Thank you guys for your time.